you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay at this? So it's more than the kingdom of the monarchs. This is 1/2 hour, but I was asked to speak for an hour. So I'm going to then transfer to my other lecture, which is all the plants that the butterflies, especially the monarchs, love. So each one will be a 1/2 hour long. I need to tell you a little bit about how I ended up in the sanctuaries. I, in my garden, one of my garden clubs, I met a gal veterinarian who said she raised monarchs with her 3 boys so that they could tag them for science. You know, she's a scientist in that world, and to help the monarch. This was 2011, and I thought, of course, at that time we knew they were in crisis, and I thought this is number one. I've never heard of such a thing, and I don't like bugs, but I love butterflies, and I really wanted to try this outrageous experiment. And what was astounding is the tags that are only produced by one entity. That's Kansas University, Monarch Watch. That's where I was born. And that's the college that Kansas University is where I graduated from, in Lawrence. So it was like, oh, this is so neat. I know Lawrence. I love butterflies. I grew up with them. We don't see them the way we did back in the 50s. At any rate, success with raising one, I fell in love. I became passionate. I learned everything I could, but I was intrigued that I could make this trip to the sanctuaries in Mexico. Not an easy trip. I did the research. I approached my husband and I said, oh my gosh, can you imagine? We could fly to Mexico, get on a bus, go west to the sanctuaries, then get in a truck and start going up the mountain, and then get on a horseback, and then we will, go into these sanctuaries. There's millions of monarchs. It just would be an experience of lifetime. I would love to do this. Wouldn't this be fabulous? And my husband looked at me and he said, are you insane? Are you insane? And he said, the largest drug cartel is right there in Michoacan. You will get sick on the food, or you will fall and injure yourself on the mountain and end up in a third world hospital. He said, it's out of the question. And I said, could I go by myself? No, it's dangerous. We're not doing that. So a year later, for Christmas, I opened my gift. You're going to the sanctuaries. And the first thing I said is, am I going alone? He said, I'll go with you. So this is, I always begin with my favorite picture, because this is the sanctuaries. Every one of these monarchs has been alive for 9 months. The sun is going through their wings and it looks like stained glass. It's just, the sights were incredible, but I love to start with that one. Oh, it's not working. How funny. It was earlier.
Not even able to switch to your other. Nice.
Oh, magic. I don't know how he did it. So I just want to briefly explain, most of you know that the Western monarchs are different. They look the same, they're different. They stay on the West Coast. They do not go down to the sanctuary. Same with the East Coast. They head down to Florida. So 97% of the monarchs, which are between the two mountain ranges, are from our land, from this massive part of North America. And so you land in customs, and everywhere are the butterflies motif. Mexico is, they are so far ahead of us as far as promoting the monarch. We went with natural habitat, which pairs with World Wildlife Federation. We had 12 people in our group. That water was the most delicious water I've ever had. I've tried to replicate it with the chia seed. No, but it was fabulous. So we flew into Mexico City, met our group, spent the night, and the next morning got on one bus, a 4-hour bus ride. Everything was gorgeous. No billboards except for the sanctuaries. This is huge business for them. They're trying to get, and they do have tourists from all over the world. You may not know, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. That means the armed guards that are there protecting the monarchs, they are hired by our world to protect this population. So we arrive in Angangale. This is our restaurant for lunch. And again, you see the monarch motif. It's so charming. And they're all different. Here's inside the bar, you see monarchs hanging on the wall and the little mural here. My pointer isn't working today. Maybe it would work now. I don't know. We'll check in the next program. At any rate, look at their license plates. So that there's 5 counties, like we have 50 states, they have 5 counties, and Michoacan is where all the monarchs live. And this is outside, again, the monarchs, the central plaza, the sidewalks, precious. This is a dentist office, and I love his rendition of that monarch, but he's also replicating their industry, which collapsed, the silver mines. They're no longer usable, but that's what the town used to live on. Now all their revenue comes from tourism. This is the grocery store logo, and you can see that Aztec influence in the design. Fernando is our lead guide, and this is a mural 2 blocks long, painted to explain the history of Angangale, their entire history for centuries. Here is a self-portrait of the artist. He's painting the monarch. You can see his specimens on his bench with his paints. And what is he saying? That the 3 countries, Canada, the US, and Mexico, must work together to save this iconic butterfly, which is native to North America and no other place. It has been transported to Australia and other countries, but this, like our buffalo or turkey, only comes from North America. Our humble, wonderful hotel, how cute is that? Pink and butterflies. And then this was my favorite mural. They had these murals, all different subjects throughout the hotel, but Circle of Life, you have the monarch, caterpillar, it has to crawl up to make its chrysalis, it emerges, it's flying away, and where is it flying to? The mountains of Angangale from the US. And so then, remember, we get on a truck to head up further into the mountains. And Fernando, here I am, my husband, and this couple came from Iceland, and we all agreed they were the whitest people we've ever seen in our lives. I mean, they were charming, charming people. So There's virtually no vehicles. It's horseback or walking in Angangeo. And so as you see, we're going up. We had 2 trucks. So we have arrived base camp and enter the sanctuary welcome area. And again, you can see Circle of Life, Monarch butterfly. I would be using my pointer, but it doesn't work. At any rate, our mule, this was so fun. He was painting. I love his abstraction of the monarch wing. And it was fun to chat with him for a little bit. And Fernando, our lead guide, and Claudia are choosing the horses. And I said to Fernando, kind of jokingly, I said, well, the horses are very small. They're very, very strong. They're bred for the mountains. And I said, oh, I'm just kind of worried about my husband because, he is 6'5", and, I'm kind of worried. And he said to me, I am too. And I thought, oh my God. No accidents. Here is my husband in the center. You wonder who should be carrying who there, but we made it up. And there in Mexico, I was introduced to this North American native, the rosenweed, which I now have in my yard. It was everywhere. But remember, every monarch you're seeing is 9 months old, has been hibernating, and is waking up. You will never see butterflies congregate like birds, except during the migration. So now I've arrived, and there's the entrance. We're immediately met with warning signs, stay within the ropes. You have to be very quiet. I would be in trouble for talking this loud. You have to be extremely quiet. You can't touch a monarch. You can't, even a dead one, you can't take it out of the sanctuary, no flash. And then these are the 3 colors you're going to see all the time: blue, green, and orange. And we were so fortunate because we were there 3 days and it was perfect weather, perfect. So here's the Oyamal tree, the only tree that they can hibernate on. And it's in trouble because the people in Mexico have no heat. Of course, they want the trees, and you know that cycle. So these monarchs are starting to wake up. They could land on you, and that was all right. You just could not touch them. But this monarch was on this gal's head for more than 2 hours. He just loved her. Is it fall? No, it's March. It's the first week of March, and those are monarchs. And they're hanging from the Oyamal trees. Every tree you see here is an Oyamal. And this is very natural, very normal, and it's very heartbreaking. These are dead monarchs that made that 2,000-mile migration. They made it through the hibernation. They woke up and they did not have the energy to go back the 500 to 700 miles to Texas, Oklahoma to lay their eggs. But that's just a part of life. So, is that gorgeous? A flower that is dripping with monarchs. And in the background, you see the Oyamal tree. So this is the end of our first day. We woke up the next morning, got on a bus to go to the highest elevation, another sanctuary. And it had a very different greeting entrance, all sculptures. So, but it all has to do with the monarch butterfly, and it's this is a mobile sculpture moving in the wind. So it has to do with the monarch. What would it be? Any guesses? What that represents? The milkweed seed flying in the wind, and this is the Oyamal pine cone, which the children can climb on, and it totally, a totally different theme at this. Now, this is where I need my pointer. This is solid monarchs here, but throughout these next shot. This is bark. So, I mean, they have been there for all those months hibernating and they're waking up. So, and these trees are so tall. So you see the bark on the far left. Some of the monarchs are waking up. They arrive in November, the first week in November, and this is the first week of March. So, yeah, they don't move. And so now, what's the magic? I couldn't believe. Remember, this is a surprise for my husband. I had no idea. He never consulted me, and but he picked the right week to go. I mean, it couldn't have been a better plan. And again, this is the Oyamal tree. And that's just, I never get tired of looking at this. I never get tired of talking about this experience. It's really breathtaking. We did not need horses we arrived at the elevation and walked through the sanctuaries on the second stop. Again, it's just, this is called a kettle. Monarchs, we say a flock of birds, we say a kettle of monarchs. So it's these kettles are 1 mile up in the sky when they're migrating, but here they're just collecting. So this is fun because have you seen butterflies drinking water? So they cannot land on the water. Their wings, if they're wet, they can't fly. But they land on the mud and the grass, and they get moisture and nutrients, minerals through the earth. So this is the end of our second day. So we went back to our pink hotel, and that's where we had our meals. By the way, our meals were gourmet. No one ever got sick, and there was never an accident. We did see later the drug cartel, but that's a different story, and we were not harmed. But Fernando got a call from his colleague at the first at Sierra to say, come back, because what's going on in that particular sanctuary is amazing. We were to go to a third, and Fernando made the decision, and I'm glad he did, to go back to a Sierra. So I'm going to open up, and we'll try to be really quiet to hear this video of Fernando. We have just arrived that next morning, and Fernando is explaining what we're seeing.
She will start to fly carrying the female with him. The female, she closed her wings already, like accepting the male. He just need to have the enough energy or the enough heat. There we go. So.
And the female, are the eggs fertilized right then, or does she wait until she finds some?
I think they're fertilizing right there.
And they wait later.
Correct. Correct. This is what we didn't see the other day, like for this long. This process takes maybe an hour, maybe a few minutes. It really depends on the male. The female is like okay with that, and we don't want to bother this male and female. But she's not helping. You see that?
There's the punchline. So we walked a little further. This is a mud puddle. And look at the monarchs. They have, I mean, they suddenly, 2 days later, they're waking up. And it's just such a sight. And this looks like bats or birds. No, it's monarchs. By the way, I'm not a photographer. I had a little Instamatic camera. I mean, I was completely not prepared. These pods are everywhere. Pods and pods of monarchs hanging like fruit from the Oyama tree. And here's Claudia, our other guide, and she carried around her earring for a while. It was really cute. Again, it was astounding. We had not seen the monarch flying the other 2 days. So Fernando said it's at the end of the day, we were the last people to leave the sanctuaries. And he said, okay, everyone get your gear and we're heading out. And just as we were getting our gear, a phenomena that is, I have goosebumps. It's called a Monarch waterfall. I grew up in Kansas with tornadoes. Think of a tornado, black. And it lasted at the most 5 seconds. It was millions and millions of monarchs flying past us out the entrance to the sanctuary. Remember, we're in a very cozy forest setting, and millions, and everybody was, you couldn't take a picture. There was nothing. Fernando said it was the second time he'd seen it in his life, and Claudia had never seen it. And he said, I can't even believe. So he took over from here. He told us all, be really quiet, get your cameras out. He grabbed my camera. How I was just so thrilled.
You can put your cameras on video
It's
and then walk.
Knowing monarchs.
Who's this camera?
This is the waterfall that has dispersed. And everyone is in shock. And he told everyone to put their camera on video. That's my our group, fabulous people. And it's the Oyama tree here. They're flying. It's snowing monarchs. And they never hit us. They never touched us. But we were told you can hear in the video, follow me. So where are we following? These are the rope barriers. Where is he taking us? So it's very interesting. We're headed to they're taking their first drinks because this is a little teeny stream. And they were just hunkered down. So then this is the next picture is the last picture. Fernando said, okay, everyone turn around and look back where you came from. And so I love this, the colors of the brown earth, the blue sky, the Oyama, those are the guards. That's how far they stand apart. They're not threatening at all, but they have guns. So back to my garage, and this is my nursery. And remember, I was taught by a veterinarian, and there's a million ways that you can raise a butterfly. If you can raise a butterfly, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful experience. But because it was a vet, and she just said, you have to do it this way. This is how I do it. I know Barbie has a different way, my friend Barbie, but anyway works. So when we got back from this, so this is 2015, my husband built this fabulous monarch cage for me. And so this is where I need my pointer. So I keep my monarchs in these Ziploc containers. I'm very particular. And when they get really big, ready to go into a chrysalis, there's some down here. They crawl up to the top, and then they make a J, and then they make their chrysalis, and then the chrysalis, the night before, usually 95% of the time, turns black, and then it goes clear. And you can see the monarch, and then they come out. And then they have to drip dry. They cannot be disturbed. Their wings cannot touch anything. They can't touch anything for a couple of hours. And I gave Tom the instructions on how to raise a monarch the way I do. And so he knows if you want it, you can have it. So, this is 2015. I've raised so many monarchs. Oh, and so this is my garden, Cleo flower. They just hatched a few hours before. They're all still damp. That's why they're being so perfect for me. But look at her. She looks like velvet. She's still damp. And so they drip dry. And it's just a fabulous, fabulous experience. So that is the end of my first lecture. I'm going to close that down and bring up the next. Oh, yes.
Butterfly one to the late summer did not emerge.
Oh, if they don't emerge, they're dead. Yeah. And no, I don't want to keep, I want to keep them as true to nature as possible. Yes.
Could you repeat the question, so that people
Oh,
online?
okay. The question was, have I ever kept a chrysalis over winter? It's impossible to keep the chrysalis. If it never came out, it's dead. But certainly some people have kept pet monarchs, I know of some people, and I just wouldn't do it because it's cruel and unusual punishment. But, um, that's a whole different, yes, question. I didn't hear you. The question is, what type of tree? Oyamal. Oyamamal. Oyamal tree.
And did they grow anywhere else? besides
No.
Mexico?
No. And they are gorgeous evergreen trees, very soft needles, extremely tall. And well, it's just such a mystery. It's so much fun to think about how that works. So I'm going to close this down and move to the next lecture. Did that? Okay. So, I could talk about, there's over 120 milkweeds native to North America. But for our state, these are the three favorite. The common milkweed, which is the backbone of the monarch population. But if you have a swampy area, they love swamp milkweed. And then this was the Garden Club of America's Flower of the Year 2017 to try to promote. I had never heard of it's Aspeleas tuberosa. What is the word? What's the common? Butterfly weed. Yes, butterfly weed. But at any rate, I had never heard of it. I love it. I love it because it would be a good plant for a beginner because it's so short. People are afraid of the invasive nature of milkweed, but so we're going to get into that. But remember, if there is no milkweed, there's no monarchs. And that's the problem that we have today, the habitat loss. We all have seen the sprawl of humanity. Humans are just about the most dangerous species in the world. So we have to really help this individual butterfly. So this is, to the naked eye, when you look under the leaf, that's where they usually are, is under the leaf. You will see the little egg. This is how they look blown up. It's like a fan. How can this be? It's so perfect and beautiful. So when the little baby larvae hatches, he eats the egg shell for the nutrient. And then as you can see, these are the different stages of that they go through, instars. So I have friends, this is my yard. People say, I have milkweed, but I don't have any monarchs. And I'll say, yes, you do. And I'll walk over and see that they're leaves have holes. When you see a hole on a milkweed leaf, hopefully when you turn it over, you'll see a larvae, but oftentimes, they have so many predators. I mean, it's only one monarch females lay about 100 to 500 eggs. But the fact is, in the wild, only one egg in 100 survive. So how do you tell the difference between a male and a female? Easy. On the right, you see those two black dots. That's the male. His veins are thinner than her veins. She's much flashier. I call that a petticoat, that the black rim with the white spots. So she's a little sturdier, a little, she stands out more. And this is truly, have you smelled the fragrance of this flower, common milkweed? Few people have. It smells like honeysuckle. The first time I smelled it, we were in our backyard and I said, "What is that smell?" to my husband. Oh, we couldn't figure it out. We had never smelled it before. And it's divine. It is my favorite flower. So this is so much fun. You can see I just purchased from Miner's Garden Center, the butterfly weed. Look who hitchhiked to my house, a full grown monarch caterpillar. I would just, it's thrilling. And here it is. That's about as tall as it gets. And by the way, what I learned when I went this direction with my yard is totally different than it was 12 years ago, is that it's whatever you plant for the monarch, every pollinator, including our over 20 native Wisconsin bees that are all in crisis too, they love, you cannot believe the noise of my yard. When you come to my yard and hear all the bees and birds, I have hummingbirds in my flowers and goldfinches in my flowers. And look at this bee, he's going to each little teeny flower. And then, oh, viceroys. They look like monarchs. They're smaller, but they're so rare. This shot was taken about 10 years ago. I haven't seen one since. It was such a thrill. All sorts. Here's a red admiral on milkweed. Here's our native ladybug is in crisis. She lays her eggs on milkweed. Oh, I love this story. This is from the Milwaukee Journal years ago. This gal was a kid during World War II, and every one of the lifesavers and pilots' insulated suits are stuffed with milkweed, the floss. I had no idea. And so she found this at a garage sale. They had the whole story. That's when I found out about it. And look, then I did some research, and they used to have huge promotions for the kids in North America to go out, of course, in the fall and collect the floss. And so on the far right, that's D-Day. Think about that. Every lifesaver has milkweed floss in it. And then these are principals so proud of what their kids, 11 million pounds of milkweed floss. And they didn't forget the puppies and the dogs, custom life jackets for them. But there's other, do you know this bird nest? Can anyone guess that loves the milkweed floss that it can't get anymore? Any guesses? Yes. There it is. But look at the naked nest. There's no milkweed floss. Okay, so this was exciting. 2017, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department declared X millions were going to be spent on trying to get people and cities. By the way, Port Washington is phenomenal with their milkweed, but very few cities are as wonderful. But anyway, promoting milkweed all over, and especially on government grounds, and ask everyone, please don't cut it down, and told city officials, please do not cut this down. And Port Washington has been really great. Who's the guy, forestry, head of forestry here? Yes, he's wonderful. I've worked with him here in the city planting, but so we've got the cradle. This is the cradle of the monarch population, and we're right. We are key. We are so, so important. And Minnesota is my hero. They are the best in the US with promoting it. We come in right behind. We're really great, but this is one of their freeways in Minneapolis. But here we are, downtown Milwaukee, one of the busiest intersections. It's milkweed and ladies, Queen Anne's lace. Now, what's interesting, Queen Anne's lace was brought over from Europe because the Europeans love the flower. It turns out it's a wonderful host to many butterflies, including the swallowtails, the black swallowtails, which I raise. So, but this used to be perfectly coughed and, gardened, and it's all gone native. This is, think of the industrial parks everywhere. And I talked to the owner here of this company in Manitowoc, who I happen to know very well, my husband. And I said, would you please stop mowing the grass? He said, I will be sued by the city. The mayor will come down on me, whatever. I begged and begged. So I got my way. This is the very first season. We put it up 1 year later. Can you believe that? And no, not only did City Hall not complain, the employees, I gave them lectures, they're raising them. And then everyone followed suit in the industrial park. I mean, it's people they're just not, they don't understand. And this little precious house is right here in Port Washington. Now, I don't know, it's not like this anymore, but he used to put out the sign, butterflies gathering today. Does anyone know this darling home? It's right at that intersection. I love this man. Anyway, then this is a friend whose husband, no, we will have no milkweed in our yard. And look at this gorgeous specimen. And it is the most prolific nursery. It's just covered with eggs and larvae, and it's wonderful. So it can happen anywhere. Oh, this is one of my favorite stories. So my daughter lives at a group home here in Port Washington, and this was her backyard. So you know what that did to my heart. It was horrible. And I asked, could I do anything? And they said, yes. So this was June 15th. And, I brought in a crew. They did that for me. I had never installed from scratch a butterfly garden. So this was really, again, my husband, what are you doing, Shelly? We'll be sued. No, they were happy. But what is so amazing is I did it for the residents, but the staff went crazy. And they have started their own gardens, and they raise monarchs. But I was so overjoyed. This was June 15th that I decided 3 months later, I'm going to have a party, and all the group homes and all the guardians, everybody is invited. And I mean, can you believe this is 3 months later? That is not a raised monarch. That is a migrating monarch, because it's September 8th. And I was there to clean up for the party and, make sure the garden was beautiful. And look what I discovered. From seed, I planted the tuberosa, butterfly weed, and there's a full grown caterpillar. So did I risk, and party was next day, do I take it home because it could be devoured? They have so many predators. The birds love this garden. And of course, that's their favorite treat. I did take it home and I brought it back the next day so that everyone could see the Monarch. But we're oh, I always have Monarch releases. Everybody gets to have a Monarch. And so you can see the Monarch in the sky. And we've released it. Of course, we have to celebrate with butterfly cake. And 1 year later, 1 year, this is astounding to me because Americans, we want things immediately. Well, this is immediate. You will immediately get an instant pollinator garden that will enrich your life. You cannot believe. So anyway, the mayor at that time contacted me and said, would you install a butterfly garden in the Port Washington grounds, City Hall? I said, sure. Now, this is one of my most amazing stories. So I have a gal helping me. We're unloading my truck. So you see the flats. This, I just set down this flat of milkweed, have returned to my car. She is laying eggs. I took 3 eggs that she laid there. There's nowhere else. It's like when a woman goes into labor and there's no hospital. That's what we've got here in our country. It's called egg dumping, and my friends and I have rescued up to 100 eggs on one plant because we know they're not going to live. I mean, it's just an example of how desperate these insects are. So this is my old, I still love it, my pots. They're useless to pollinators. You will never see a butterfly, a hummingbird, nothing, a bee, nothing. It's junk food for the pollinators. We love it to our eye. It's not native. Now, this is what I plant. And do you see the hummingbird? Of course, I'm not a good photographer. I wasn't expecting this, but the hummingbird, these are all native North American herbs, whatever they love. And here it is again. This is a better shot. Look at that hummingbird. Whoever gets hummingbirds in their pots but what kind of flowers do you have? Yes. Exactly. And that's what this is, salvia. And then here's a finch. Now I'll get into the zinnia later, but he's eating the petals, which is very annoying. He's ruining my flowers. But anyway, and this is my milkweed, but this, you're going to see a female. She's looking for the perfect place and she comes upon a milkweed flower that she decides right there to lay the egg. So that's how they lay the egg. Now, for people who are afraid to plant milkweed because they say it's invasive, it's really just being itself. It's not invasive, it's our minds, but this is the time to weed it. And the beauty is it comes up like picking up sticks. Of course it is a flower, but it's easy to contain. And if I don't do it anymore, but when I first started raising milkweed and pollinator, I would get it right then, because nature's fascinating. After June 15th, it's like nature knows that the monarch must have these plants. You can't get them up. They're like tree trunks that you can pull and they'll break. And but I love this because this is my bee balm and my milkweed in bloom. But if any pollinator has a choice, they love bee balm, they'll always go to the milkweed. I never knew that. Then I always thought, oh, it looks ugly. This is terrible. I have to go to Stein's and get chemicals. And no, this, scientists don't understand this, and I have a few more pictures, but this is the end of the season. They love it. And then, oh, I love this. This is a photobomb. Who's ever heard of a butterfly that's territorial? The monarch is. This is a tiger swallowtail in my yard. Watch. Go away. That is my Verbena bonarianthus. And that is actually, that is a flower, Barbie, that Jill introduced to me. And it is my favorite annual. Here it is again. This is a yellow swallowtail. Watch the territorial nature of this monarch. Can you believe that? But this, I call it my Dr. Seuss flower. I love it because every pollinator loves this annual. It comes back like a perennial. No, it's not pretty. But again, this example, that's a flower on the far right, that yellow yarrow, but he prefers the spent. So I never cut I never look at the lamb's ear. I used to always cut it down as soon as it stopped blooming. I hated those spears and, the ugly zinnia, but they love this. Scientists think they might be getting some sort of medical nutrient. I don't know. They don't know. But we love the coneflower. Look at this coneflower. I went to deadhead it, but I didn't have the heart to deadhead it. So they stay up dead and alive. And this goldfinch is just having a fabulous meal. Again, here's a finch eating my lavender spent and my cosmo seeds spent. So I never knew this until I, started butterfly gardens. Skippers love this ironweed, the salvia again. And these are just some, you see that the goldfinches are on my catmint, all day long, plucking out. And the last herb, which is not a weed, goldenrod, it is the savior for all of our monarchs that make that trip because it's the only one, still blooming. I have to say, I don't have it in my yard. It is so invasive, but I just wanted to share with you that it is key to the life cycle of the monarch. And then I love this. Oh, so back to the zinnias. This is my yard. And they love the flat lily pad heritage, old fashioned. And these are migrating. These are not mine. It's the end of the season, but zinnias take so long to come up from seed. But once they do, they're there until frost. And I love this story. This is Schlitz Audubon in June. How can there be a full-grown monarch in June? He had been born south, I like to think Kansas, found his way up, or Missouri, okay, and he's tattered, he's dying, and it's over. Here's a monarch with a bit part of his wing gone. He will make it. They have no nerves in their wings. And these are all Schlitz Audubon in the fall. And my house releasing, and I said, she's kissing me goodbye. It's in the fall. And then it doesn't matter the age. Everyone loves monarchs. This is my granddaughter. And they're a thrill for everyone. And so I want to leave you with my favorite cartoon. The thing is, you have to really want to change. That is what the psychiatrist monarch is telling the little caterpillar. So I thank you very much. Any questions? Any questions? I hope who all has milkweed in their yard? Oh, but a lot of you don't. So please, I want you to know that if you plant one milkweed plant, just like Fort Washington City Hall, you will have eggs, you have an instant nursery. So thank you very much.